Little dentist appointment?
Yeah, little dentist appointment. Got my mouth a little fucked up. There's going to be some work being done over the next couple weeks too, which kind of sucks, but it is what
Oh,
it
that's
is.
terrible.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm planning it all around the show though. Oh,
Okay.
Golfer HD, first one on from the Twitter sphere of X. Absolutely love that. Oh, we're gonna let everybody kind of join in here. I know there's been are happening right now with the presidential debate, so we're gonna let some people jump on. I don't know how many people we're gonna have on because this debate is crazy so far.
It is. It is. It was.
Pretty entertaining.
It is for sure.
But we got some great stuff to go over tonight. I hope there's not too many people that don't end up making it because man, we've got
We
some
got a show.
shit to go over tonight. Some
Mm.
SI, some SH to the I to the T. Yeah, we're getting
Some
some people joining right now.
SHIT.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, hit
man.
that link if you're in here. That's from Trot Golfer himself. He's got he's got us doing a nice little segment for him tonight. And
I saw this.
I finally got to the point to where I'm like, you know what? We got to cover this on the show. This is something we absolutely have to dive into because, one, I wasn't aware until Trot Golfer really kind of brought this to my attention. So I didn't realize this has been a thing going on since like 2017, man.
It's a real cheat. It's a gentleman's cheat.
It is. And it's funny because we'll get into this later on, but it's funny because it really depends on your interpretation of the rule. If you're like a Bernard Longer or even a Scott McCarran. So Dylan Vodry
Yeah.
is hopping on. IO. Is that AO for the yayo? All right, here we go. I got Red Bull tonight. Cheers, everybody. Got good old Silverado and Napa behind me. We're going to dive into that as well. We're just going to let a few more people jump on here. So, got about the majority so far coming from the Twitter world. So, loving that.
The
YouTube is a
Twitter
little
sphere.
light so far. Yeah, the Twitter sphere, the X. But I'm actually pretty pumped. Not only because you're back in a remote setting, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Oh
Oof,
boy, we just
buddy.
had a big influx on the YouTube side, so loving that. Okay, so looks like majority of people are on. We got about 300, 600 people on right now. Perfect. So we can go ahead and get started here. But do you want to talk about it before we start recording, or you want this to be a part of the recorded podcast version, Butsy, about what's
Oh,
been going on with you? The poor guy.
Uh, gosh, I think we might be getting a lawyer for this one, so let's keep it off the recorded version. Uh,
Okay, we're going live with it then, right now.
yeah.
Should I
You
set
want
the
me to-
stage for you?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
poor Botsy, this poor guy hasn't been able to catch a break in the past couple of weeks. This week he is supposed to actually be out in Nashville, Tennessee, caddying for Brent Grant. And unfortunately, the poor guy's been dealing with some back issues, right? So first throws out the back. You know, we were playing golf up in Payson, Arizona. You had tweaked it up there as well, and this has been an ongoing thing for a couple of weeks. When you play a lot of golf, you tend to have some back issues every once in a
Yeah.
while. And sure enough, you ran into a few little issues yourself. But man, you have not been able to catch a break because what happened this weekend, some young teenage girl just ramrodded the poor guy and destroyed his brand new BMW that he got for work, which granted, Butsy drives a beautiful Dodge Charger. So that was not harmed, okay, folks? And then also has a
Oh,
beautiful big truck, which is great. Look, I mean, when you pull out of that thing, I mean
oh
that
God.
vehicle really fits you just by size wise. And you step out of that thing and you just look like an absolute G. So we've got the BMW that just got absolutely destroyed. And this poor guy
Yeah.
ended up in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
Man, you can't make it up. Yeah. The back was tweaked. That was one thing. We were uh we were almost 100% again. Supposed to be on a plane what's today? Tuesday, Sunday morning. I was going to be in Nashville Sunday night, out on the golf course, walking the course for Brent Monday yesterday. And yeah, man, got a smoking deal on a older BMW. It's like a 15. Really fucking sweet deal. Went to the gym, went to the store. I probably put 9 to 12 miles on it. And driving through the intersection, this chick pulls right in front of me and bang, 40 miles an hour to zero. All the airbags deploy.
Oh,
Car,
you hate to see it.
yeah, car completely totaled. I got out and obviously completely out. You know, I don't know if you've ever been in an accident. You get out, you don't know where the fuck you are, right? Like it's scary. So yeah, thought we were all right, and then woke up the next day and my back issues are about 3 billion times worse. So we're trying to come back from that. Got some shit lined up, chiropractor. That's what's going on with me right now.
Jesus, man. Like I said, poor guy just can't buy a bucket out there. And certainly, let me get back to some of the notes here, or some of our comments, as I just brought in our Millions stream as well. I actually forgot to do that. So Millions is now live as well with us. And yes, Trot, this is breaking news.
Breaking news.
His health is not good. But Butsy is bringing it here tonight because he's still with us. That's correct there, Trot. He is still with us, and we love that for us. We love that for him, and certainly he is playing injured tonight. I am as well. I ended up at the dentist and got some fucked up shit going on there. So
What's going on with your mouth?
man,
What do you
well,
you want to get into it or no?
you know what's funny? I chipped a tooth in a fight going back like 15
course
years
you
ago.
did.
15 years ago, I got into a fight and chipped a tooth, and it's like the front part of the tooth used to be super sensitive. Went to a doctor, like it's had like part of the tooth is like ripped off. So the doctor at the time, and I was only like 25-ish, maybe even 24, whatever. So long story short, the doctor at the time is like trying to convince me to do a crown and to pay a bunch of money to get that done. And at that point, I was just like, no. I was like, do what you got to do to like fix this thing without me having to pay a bunch of money. So he ended up filling it, right? He told me,
Yeah.
he's like, this is only going to last like a year to 2 years. Lasted 15 years. It finally popped off. So that happened. Then I get in there and they're like, hey, you ever had your wisdom, or anybody ever tell you need your wisdom teeth out? I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, just about
fuck.
every time that I've gone into a dentist, they have said that I needed to. So, nonetheless, that's going to be happening in the weeks to come. And then there's some
Oh.
other stuff that's going on too that, they're going to have to dig into some places and clean up some areas. And I'm just like, gosh, this is why I don't love the dentist, and Trot Golfers as dentists are a scam. It definitely was not like they did some stuff today. They obviously filled the tooth. This time they were just like, yeah, we'll fill it for you. So that was cool. All right.
But we got to yank those big ones out. That's going to be fucking
Yeah,
terrible.
I know. So I'm doing it Wednesday in 2 weeks after the show, the next day.
All right.
So yeah.
So there's that.
So there's that.
Boy,
So
we
I'm going to
got-
count us in. I'm going to give us let me get one more chug here before we get the podcast started. Wow, that was in sync, and that was actually pretty cool. I wasn't planning that. All right. Whew. I feel good. Let's fucking do it.
Are you numb? Is your mouth numb right now?
No, it was, though.
Are you like,
I was
I'm on.
like, yeah, I was trying to talk to my wife. I'm just like, I can do the show, no problem tonight. I was even in the dentist like, oh, this is great. I can totally talk. They're like, you have a show tonight? I'm like, yeah. They're like, what time? I'm like, 7:00. Like, you should be fine by then. I'm like, all right, cool.
Okay, tune in. You should watch. Ooh.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cook. We've got our co-host back with us this week, Mr. Butsy himself, the Butsy on Instagram, or _Butsy on Instagram. Make sure to give him a nice little follow, and make sure to follow the Pull Hook Golf podcast, whether you are listening on any podcast platform, because we are everywhere. Or if you're watching on YouTube or on millions.co, make sure to follow the channel, give us a like, and we would greatly appreciate that. It certainly is helpful. And if you see our social media stuff, give that a like as well. The algorithms love that when you give it a nice little like or share it with your friends. But tonight's episode, we've got the fall series once again, folks. We talked a little bit about it last week. We got a little bit more of a preview this week. We've also got the upcoming Procore Championship. I'm trying to think of the technology company's name from last year that it was, because I got into this whole thing as to like the pronunciation of it, but this year it's Procore. Pretty easy. But that's in Napa Valley, folks. So people are going to be going to the French Laundry, drinking their wines, having a great time. We've got the upcoming Live Golf Chicago, which seems like it's going to be a little bit more stressful of an event. We're going to talk about that. Then we've got the Swanee style segment. So folks, make sure to hang on for us until the Swanee style segment, because we got a huge announcement that is going to be the Swanee style segment. So this is going to be different. I'll just give you a little hint right now. It might be a giveaway, and there might be some details around that. And there might be a new promo code as well that gets you even more money off at Swannies.co. So make sure to hang on to there. And then we've got Trot Golfer segment. I am dedicating this one to you, my man. It is the Bernard Longer anchoring. Absolutely anchoring segment tonight. We're finally going to dive into this. This has been a lifelong mission for Trot Golfer with Bernard Longer, and it was kind of cool. Trot was getting into it with Bob Estes, which was pretty interesting on the X.
You got to put Long Hard Banger's face on Will Ferrell's for the movie cover for Anchorman, and like put that up for the promo.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, you gotta
wow. That's going to be the cover tomorrow.
That's what I'm
wait
saying.
till you guys see that. That's going to be great. Way to go, Butsy. Yeah, what a start. All right, let's get into the fall series, because this whole thing, as I've looked into this more and more and more, and I had an interview that is going to be coming out with Parker McLaughlin, short game chef, PGA Tour winner, so on and so forth. But now he's like a short game guru. But he was a guy that literally, he wasn't one of these top players, right? So he's one of these guys that was hanging on to his card, just trying to make it to another year. You know, that one win was huge for him. But this fall series is kind of like, it's time. It's the proving ground for the new talent so that they can actually get in an event or two and potentially win. Because a lot of the top guys are not playing in these weeks. And partially, I like the fact that, and I'm going to give the tour some credit here. I like the fact that the tour has stopped the carryover season. So it's no longer the fall series counts towards next year. Now the fall series is just in and of itself. And that part of it, I actually really like now that this isn't part of the FedEx Cup points for next year. It does help with the top 10 for the Aon Next. So that is, if anybody's not familiar with the Aon Next 10, which that just sounds like a video game, that is how it's how players get into the Signature Series events. It's like the top 10 points winners, or points, I don't know how you put it, but they have points, right, for the FedEx Cup and so forth. But they'll gain points this fall. That's going to help them heading into next season's Signature Series events. So that's the only thing it's going to help with. Doesn't help towards the FedEx Cup rankings or anything like that for 2025. So I've kind of re-looked at this where, Parker and a lot of other PGA Tour guys, like a Kevin Struman, for instance, look at the Signature Series events very negatively. It's not something that's going to help the broader PGA Tour. It's only going to help the top 70 players, let's say, or 72 is the minimum for next year. So my question to you, Butsy, with all of that being said, what's your take on this little fall series? Do you like this, that it's almost like the new talent or the guys towards the bottom of the PGA Tour rankings? This is like their season now.
I liken it to baseball, right? Baseball has 3 tiers. They have 4 tiers: the single A, double A, triple A. And then you get called up and then even after you get called up, you gotta really earn your spot to stay in the fucking big leagues.
Yeah, you can go back and forth. You can get DFA'd as well.
And I'm not saying I agree with what they're doing, but if you look at it through that optic, I don't know, like why is that such a big fucking deal? You have Corn. How many guys that graduate from Corn Ferry Tour every year? This would be a good stat to look up. Keep their card the following year. What percentage of them? Because I know when it used to be when you used to just go get your PJ Tour card and you were like on tour when you got through Q school, it was like some stupid percentage, like 95% didn't keep their card, right?
Yeah.
I wonder what percentage of Corn Ferry graduates that get a card keep it the next year. And if that's a high number, maybe it's not such a bad idea to then have another intermediary spot for them, like on the PGA Tour. They're on tour, but now you got to earn your way into the real big leagues, which is those signature series events. I don't
Makes
know.
sense. And here's the thing though, like Harrison Endicott won the Q School last year, right? Now I'm getting
Yeah,
away from a little bit from the Corn Ferry side, but from Q School and couldn't play in a lot of these events to start off the year. So
okay.
like for somebody like him, it really takes a long time like to get to the point to where you can play in some of these tournaments. And that's
How do you get into the top 70 quickly?
you got to win. But I
That's
mean, that's the problem with being a new player on tour now is that all these signature series events and a lot of the other events are kind of stacked in where a lot of the players can't get in that are from Q School, from Corn Ferry, that are graduates and so forth. So it is tough for these guys to be able to go and get into a signature series event, especially in the beginning of the year. So it kind of pushes them now towards those secondary events, kind of like what you're saying, the tiers. You know, when there's a signature series event, sometimes there is a corresponding event that's happening down, gosh, in the Dominican Republic or some of these other more exotic areas, I'll say, while those tournaments are going on, right?
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
that's for the lower, like the lower tier players that are
Right.
towards the bottom of the rankings. Now, in addition to that, they also have this fall series that they get to play in and kind of, you know, a lot of the top talent isn't playing in these, so it really becomes more so for them. And I think the tour could brand it as such. Like I just feel like there's so much
Yeah.
opportunity for
Call it
them to,
something else.
yeah, like I mean, I just think of WWE. It's like WWE next. It's like PGA Tours future.
Proving grounds or whatever you want to call it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. It just doesn't really feel like it's being promoted properly, or but when I looked at it, that's what it is. Like that's what these next weeks are really going to be about.
And how many events do we have? Like where they're trying to basically put their name in the sand to get into a signature event? Like how many we got? Four?
So for the fall series, no, there's more than just four. I mean, it
Okay.
pretty much runs through the until December basically. So you got Procore, that's this week. Then you've got a week off for the President's Cup. Then you've got, let's see, Sanderson Farms, right? Yeah, Sanderson Farms in October, that first week of October. Then we've got that new event in Black Desert in Utah. That thing
Sick.
looks sick.
I want to play golf
So
out there so bad, dude.
yeah,
Ugh.
exactly. So that's going to be interesting of a golf tournament. You know, Tony Finau's got to play in that one.
Yeah.
The Shriners Children's Open, a lot of guys like to play in that. Then you've got Zozo. So Zozo is going to be the first one that isn't necessarily for those guys. So, but that first group of tournaments, Pro Course of 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you called it 4. But then you get down to the Worldwide Technology Championship. That's another one that's going to be easier to get into down in Cabo. That's at Tiger's Course at Diamante. Then you got the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. Once again, a lot of guys can get into that. Then you've got the RSM Classic with that one in Sea Island. Now, I know a lot of guys playing that, but then you've got the Hero World Challenge. So basically through November, you've got a lot of opportunities. So let's count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you got
All
7
right.
tournaments
So
for these young guys.
is there a bar? Like is there a defined bar? If I am in the top 20, like if I average in the top 20 for, let's say I start in all those events, am I going to get into the signature series? Where's
Maybe.
the metric at, right? Like that's what I'm saying. So like it would be cool to know that there is kind of a benchmark that you need to hit being a lower tier player to kind of get the call up, so to speak, and get into signature events if you play well enough. Now I know that could be a win and then 31st and then you know what I mean, but the average, where do you need to be sitting after all those starts to get into signature series?
Yeah,
That's
so
what it
this
should
is,
be like.
I totally agree with you. The one thing that I will say in addition to that is when it comes to, and Trot Golfer mentions it here, a lot of veterans are playing this week. Well, a lot of veterans play in this fall series that are lower in the rankings. So I guess it's not technically just young future talent, right? It's also guys that are trying to get their game
Yeah,
back up in the rankings or get themselves back up in the rankings that have played well in the past and are veterans on the PG Tour, like a Kevin Struman, like a Camilo Villegas last year. Because I was looking at some of the winners of these events, right? So,
yeah,
one, you've got Sahith Theegala won the Procore Championship last year. That's where they're playing this week. That was his very first victory. So, boom, right there, young talent gave him an
right.
opportunity to win. Then you've got Sanderson Farms. Luke List ends up winning that one. So a little bit of a veteran, I would say, out of Luke List. Not maybe that's probably not the best example. Then you've got the Shriners, where Tom Kim won. Okay, so that was somebody who's won previously. Then I'm going to skip over the Zozo. The Worldwide Technology Championship, Eric Van Rooyen won. Then you've got Butterfield Bermuda Championship. And this is where, once again, you kind of see that veteran player, Camilo Villegas, wins after years of not winning on tour. So that was a
Right.
great opportunity for him to kind of get back into the fold, keep his PGA Tour card. And then at the RSM Classic, you had rookie Ludwig Oberg win there. So it's kind of this mix between these old guys as well as these young players. So there's got to be something branding wise. I haven't thought about it enough heading into this conversation to be like, hey, this is what the PGA Tour should be promoting this as.
And I don't know. I guess I like it. I just wonder at the end of the year, like in the signature events, are you really enhancing the product? Like, are those events really now showcasing the players that are playing their absolute best, the best in the world? Like,
No.
and that's who should be playing in those. Like, is that a good representation of that? I don't know.
I that you know what, that goes back to the branding of this whole thing. That it's the PGA Tour, but they could have it branded as something slightly different. I think Fall Series doesn't. It obviously it's seasonality, but as Run PMC says, it's silly season, which was
Fall.
something I called it years back on the podcast. I was like, silly season is upon us, and this is what this fall series really is. And that was when it was carrying over into the next year for FedEx Cup points, standings, and all that. That's why we had a Justin Thomas appearance last year, and now he's, I believe, is he playing in it this week? I'm not quite sure. I'll have to
Maybe,
double
I mean,
check.
maybe they were super tricky about it. Maybe it's called the Fall Series, not only because it's fall, but because it's for the players that fell off. You know, you ever think about that?
I love
uh,
it. And
oh
like they
God.
could call this, like, I think what we labeled this segment kind of as, and I don't even know if I mentioned that at the beginning of introducing this segment, but the proving grounds of what you said as well. And maybe it's a proving grounds, young versus old.
Yeah, some sort of zest to it to let people know that this is very much these guys battling out to get back to the top or to have their first chance at being, one of the best.
Yeah, for sure. And Kyle over at Car Barn, guys, this isn't the presidential debate. Goddamn right it's not.
He said president debate.
Oh.
this, this
I
isn't the
just,
president debate.
oh, and then Trot Golfer throws in there Sean O'Hare, what a journeyman. Like, these are some of the guys that you see end up getting their careers back on track, being able to keep their cards. And I kind of endear this side to the season because of the potential that's there. I'm with you that it's not the absolute best teeing it up against each other. But is that, I mean, we saw it funny. And I keep going back to this in my head. I'm like, the first part of the year, that really was the golf year, right? Kind of ended in June. Now all
Yeah.
of a sudden we're like, all right, now we've got the rest of the guys that are on tour. What do you think? You seem perplexed. I said with the signature series events, basically by the time we get to June, golf season's pretty much over.
Yeah.
For like having the absolute top talent going against each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of by design. But then from there, now we head into a season to where a lot of the top guys aren't going to be playing.
No, we got the shitters. We got the shitters battling it out in the Coliseum, uh, trying to get back to the big leagues. That's what it is. That's what they're trying to make of it, right? Like, there's no other explanation for it.
No, and that's why I think they're doing it a disservice by calling it the fall series on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I don't know. The PGA Tour is so nice, right? They're not gonna. I don't know. Everybody's feelings are hurt. Hey, shitters, get over here. You're playing these events. You don't belong with the big boys.
Here comes
Not
the
quite
bottom
yet.
bucket. It's the bottom bucket season.
Yeah, yeah,
There's got to be a better word for that.
yeah. We could work on that. I mean, proving grounds is pretty good. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're
Yeah,
proving
that
yourself.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the proving grounds. Like,
Welcome to PGA Tour Proving Grounds.
yeah, proving grounds event coming up. Oh, it's a proving grounds event. Okay, cool. Who's on the bubble, right? Who needs to play well this week to secure a spot in the signature event? Potentially change their lives playing for and the cash is like, what is a win in the fall series versus a signature event, money wise?
Big difference.
Big, like, yeah, yeah.
They're like, I mean, they're decent purses. I mean, the guys are still winning a mil, like in a mil and a half, depending on the event. They're like between. I just saw one for 6 million. So this one this week is 6 mil. Then you got 7.6 at Sanderson Farms. Then at Black Desert you got 7.5. Shriners is 7 mil. Zozo is 8.5, but that's going to be more of your top guys on tour. 7.2 for the Worldwide Technology, 6.9 for Bermuda, and then it ends with a RSM at 8 mil. So it's not like that's pretty good purses, but it's not the signature series events. You know what I mean?
What do you win on Corn Ferry? Like 400 grand, something like that.
Yeah, bro. I think around that.
So they've created a gap wedge, so to speak, in professional golf. Corn Ferry, you made it. You're playing with the big boys, but you're not quite there. Like, you're not. Yeah, and you got to stay up there to play for all that money. I don't know. I like it. I don't hate it at all.
I kind of like just what we've talked about, proving grounds.
Yeah, proving grounds. It's the proving grounds.
Yeah, it's the season for guys to prove themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be branded. I think you could actually build up something big around that.
You could create a whole lot of drama. You could cover journeyman. That's a great story. Guy fell from grace all the way to a rookie who's 20 years old and flew through fucking Corn Ferry, and now he's got a chance to, rocket his career upward and play with the big boys.
Yeah. Kyle says 1 down, 1 to play. Do you press every time?
I don't know. It depends on how much.
That's why I couldn't be upset with you, Butsy, when you pressed and then good old Brandon decided to make a hole in one. Talked about that last week. And you didn't even consult me on it. You just went ahead and pressed, and I was your teammate on that. And I'm just like, yeah, it's what I would have done. So I can't be mad at that.
It's a front left gap wedge par 3. Like, absolutely. I'm definitely going to have I knew I was going to have a birdie putt 9 out of 10 times. I'm pressing. That's the only reason I made the call. One of us is going to birdie this hole. Did not see Brandon hooping it. I was the only one on the tee box that wasn't excited. Everybody's jumping up and down. I'm in the back
stunned.
just like,
Yeah, you were just absolutely your mouth. I feel like your jaw dropped down. You're like one of those cartoons at that point, to where like the jaw just drops down to their feet. You were just like, "What the just happened?"
Couldn't believe it. I mean, I'll be happy for you later at dinner, but not now. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Truck Golfer
Anyway,
says on the Corn Ferry Tour, it's still $1 million, better than the Asher Tour. There's so many options for guys to play, but once you get to the mini tours, that is just a little legalized gambling on the golf course between pros.
yeah, for sure.
Golfer HD says, "What if Scotty showed up in a disguise like an undercover boss? That'd be kind of cool."
How's Scotty gonna fucking show up in a disguise? He's gonna make one golf swing, his back foot's gonna slip, and everybody's gonna know it's him. Like,
Not like Mac O'Grady. Do you ever hear the stories of Mac O'Grady and how crazy that dude was?
no.
So, as the fables go, Mac O'Grady was this incredible player, played right-handed and left-handed. Okay?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And he was just as good left-handed as he was right-handed. He got banned for something, so then he changed his name and showed up and played left-handed. So,
Okay.
little story time about Mac O'Grady. But you talk to anybody about Mac O'Grady, everybody's like the same thing. That guy was fucking nuts. But that guy
That's
knew
cool.
the golf swing. Yeah, pretty cool dude. Played a lot in the overseas as well. All right, let's get keep it moving, keep it grooving here. Let's move into the next part of this, which is the Procore Championship preview. So the Procore Championship, once again, this is taking place in Napa Valley. So some of these guys that are showing up, they're not showing up because this is the best golf course in the world. They're not showing up because it's the best tournament with the best purse in the world. They're showing up because it's fucking Napa Valley. And they're like, wife, you deserve a little bit of wine. You deserve some French Laundry. French Laundry, that restaurant's going to be packed this week with PGA Tour pros. So yeah, that's what this tournament's all about. And I kind of love the bouginess to it because they don't really push for crowds that much out there. It's just like, come enjoy the bouginess that is Napa Valley. I love Napa. You ever been to Napa Valley?
Outside my pay grade, friend. Never been.
It's a great time.
Awesome.
You get a driver that you rent the car from the airport, and then you have to like sign them as an additional driver, but they drive you to every winery. So you just get absolutely hammered, and then they're driving the car for you. It's a whole service there in Napa. It's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's like a party bus, but like fancy.
basically. It pretty much is. Now, as we talk about the tournament, we do have some players playing in this, all right? So I don't want everybody to think that this is just rookies on tour, guys who are veterans that haven't played good over the past year or two. We do have Sahith Theegala as the defending champion. He had to come back, obviously. You got Max Homa, who's the 2022 champion. All right, Max Homa. He always plays well out there. That course just kind of seems to fit Max. Corey Connors, Wyndham Clark, Maverick McNeely.
Woo, I like that.
Watch out for Maverick McNeely. I didn't realize up until doing some research around this one that he's playing on a medical exemption. So that's why we haven't really seen a whole lot from Maverick, but he's had a pretty good year so far. So watch out for him. Lucas Glover is playing. I know you always have comments about Lucas Glover. What is your recommendation for Lucas to watch out for this week?
What do you mean? Like what he's gonna do?
No, just like who should he watch out for? Who could potentially yell at him and tell him he's a terrible golfer?
Yeah, his wife might fly out of the crowd with a fucking ice skate screaming about Tanya Harding and just beat him in the legs. I'm like, who knows? Yeah. He might get his legs beat. Wyndham by 8. There he is. He loves Wyndham.
Trott's on my team now. No, Trot was not a big Wyndham guy until I kind of convinced him that Wyndham is playing some good golf, and
you guys
I think
probably
he's
only
carry
stay
that
at.
through.
You guys are terrible. Probably only stay at Wyndham hotels too. Probably.
Of course. I mean, where else would you stay?
Yeah. No, he's got his name. I'm fucking staying there.
So let's go over just some notable players that are in the field. We've went over to Lucas Glover. Keith Mitchell is playing as well. Good old Cashmere Keith. Seems like a perfect fit. cashmere sweaters, Napa Valley, wineries. You've got good old French Laundry for the restaurant. Don't you think, like Keith Mitchell, this just fits Keith?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's at home there.
Yeah. I feel like Keith is like one of the most comfortable guys on tour. Wow. That was aggressive. That was a push.
Well, I can't hear it because I got the noise canceling on, but I farted at the
Patrick,
same time.
you could die if you do that, I heard. You should
Oh,
probably
it's
look that up on ChatGPT.
just like 10x relief. Sorry, go on.
We've got Patrick Rogers playing as well. So let's go over the playing odds. Here's the betting odds for the top players. So Sahith Theegala plus 1,200, matched with Wyndham Clark. Okay, those are your top two this week. We got Corey Connors at plus 1,400, Max Homa at plus 2,000, Minwoo Lee at plus 2,200, Maverick McNeely is also at plus 2,200, Keith Mitchell's plus 3,000, and JJ Spawn at plus 4,000. Who do you like this week?
Whew. You got to go Homa. Got to go Homa. I'm a big JJ Spawn fan, and I think only because I pulled his card out of like 10,000 packs of golf cards. Got a really cool one of Maverick McNeely.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Nate Lashley.
Yeah. And then Wing Ding Sleeper. I don't know what that means. Not a clue. Wesley Bryan needs some redemption after losing. I felt bad for him. I thought he played well in that Creators Classic. Little weird that a PGA Tour guy, though, was playing in that. Shipley, top
Yeah,
5. Oh, ASU Superstar. That's right. No, I know who you're talking about, Kyle.
Wing Ding, dude.
Yeah.
Wing fucking
Wing
Ding, dude.
Ding. Yeah. Wing
Wing
Ding.
Ding.
Everybody's doing the Wing Ding.
Wing Ding.
Wing Ding. I like Maverick McNeely this week. I'm with you on that one, but I am not going to go Wyndham Clark this week. I don't think that his game really fits this very tight golf course. I do like, gosh, I think Sahith is going to do it again.
Sahith together.
I think he goes back to back because Sahith played really well coming down the stretch of the FedEx Cup to end his year. I wonder if he's tired, though. Let's see. But I do like Sahith. So that's
He's one of my favorite players, man. And I don't even know why. I think
he's got a swagger to him, man.
yeah, I just like the guy.
Yeah. He like the way he walks, the way he just is like calm and nonchalant. He kind of like bops as he goes, and he's kind of long and dangly. Sounds like
He looks like a dude that would
yeah.
like not just walk past you. He'd be like, "What's up, man?" You know what I mean? I don't know.
Chill dude. Chill dude.
Chill.
If I'm not mistaken, he went to Pepperdine, if I'm not mistaken, which, if you know Pepperdine, that is right. That's Malibu, baby. So you got to be chill. I might be wrong on that. For whatever reason, that came to me, and I'm not sure it's correct. So, yeah, we got that this week. So watch out for Napa Valley. All right, let's get into Live Golf Chicago because the 2024 Live Golf Chicago, this is a very important event on the Live Golf side. And certainly there is going to be some things that are going to be changing on Live Golf heading into next year because it's just set up that way. This is really interesting to me. So this is happening in Chicago, obviously Live Golf Chicago, but I want to talk about just a couple of the key topics for this particular event. First of all, the individual player title is up for grabs, okay? Really between John Rahm and then also Joaquin Neiman. So Rahm's behind Neiman and basically has already said, he's like, I know Neiman's going to be up there in like the top 10 because of how well he's been playing. So I need to go out and win in order to get enough points in order to hopefully take over. So Rahm knows he's got to go in and win this golf tournament in order to have a chance at winning the individual player race. Who do you think ends up taking the individual player? Is it Rahm or is it Neiman?
Rahm. It's
Love
wrong.
that. Love that. I can't disagree with that whatsoever. I think Rom has a really good chance in Chicago to win that event and take the individual title. Wouldn't that be awesome for him to finally kind of not break through, because he broke through in the UK, but if he broke through on Live, having this kind of weird year to where he didn't really get, he kind of lost favor with a lot of fans. Not by making
Yeah.
the move over to Live, but because he kind of became irrelevant. Just was putting in top fives in almost every event. And everybody, including us, was saying that, hey, John Rahm really hasn't had a great year on Live Golf because we expected him to win multiple times. But now he's got a chance to win, take the individual title. And then all of a sudden, we can't really have that conversation anymore, can we?
No, and I'm just gonna say, because of the gravity of this event, that's gonna get John Rahm's loins going. That's gonna get the
Ooh,
juices flowing for
loins is a
him.
good word.
Yeah, it's gonna juice up his
Yeah.
loins. Yeah.
I had a ribeye before the show. I'm like
Hmm.
salivating over it right now.
John
But you
Rahm's
saying
loins.
loins, it
Oh,
sounds weird when you say it that way. When you put it into that context, very strange. Yeah, not not really feeling that.
yeah. I was taking a bite. Just John Rahm.
Okay, so what's interesting about this, in addition, to me, that's not even the most interesting topic going into Live Golf Chicago. We've got the top 24 lock zone. Okay, I'm trying so hard to be serious about this. It's the top 24 lock zone.
Yes.
Now, the top 24, they are secure for next year. So nothing can happen to them. They're guaranteed to be on Live Golf. And this is one of the changes that they've made, to where now you have an open zone and you have a drop zone. So the open zone, and I didn't realize this until like really digging into this, that
Yeah.
the open zone is your 25th player through 48th. They can be released or traded by the teams.
Okay.
You don't find that interesting?
No.
So even
I
if
mean,
you're like
they got to do
safe,
something.
even if you're safe, you're in
Yeah,
this
you're in the.
open zone, you can be released. So let's say that like Brooks
Wait, wait, wait,
Koepka's like, hey,
wait,
Graham McDowell, you, even though you're in this like open zone, I don't like that you got popped for doing some dinghies,
Yeah.
So you're gone. He can release him.
If not, if he's in the top 24, though, right? Outside of that,
Out the 25th through 48th are the players that can be released or they can be traded.
I mean, I don't think that's crazy interesting. Like, you got to have something like that. The field is only so big in live golf, so you have to have some benchmark where if you're above it, you're not safe. I mean, guys have to have the what's the word I'm looking for? Incentive to get to the top 24. The fields are only so big, so they have to have something to play for before they get the boot or could get the boot, right? Like,
Yeah, one compliment that I will say for Live Golf is like this happens on the PGA Tour where guys lose their card and everything, but it is not built in this way to where like this is a top storyline of who's going to end up in the open zone, who's guaranteed for next year, who's going to be in the drop zone that now has to go try to requalify to get back onto Live. So the drop zone are the guys who are all banished from Live Golf and have to go play in
oof,
that like Q school setup to where now they've got to play their way back onto Live Golf. And that is 49th and lower. Now, your buddy, Pat Perez, he's 48th right now. So he's right on the bubble. However, I want to see some controversy this year. Like, I'm not saying this, I'm not putting this out there for Pat. I'm just saying this is like, what if Dustin Johnson he had enough of Pat on his team? Not going to happen. That's why I'll bring up the example because Pat and DJ are buddies. But let's say that he was just like, Pat, you're just not cutting it, man. I think somebody else is going to be better, and he releases him. There's a chance that
man.
Pat isn't on Live Golf next year because he was in the open zone, even though he made it out of the drop zone.
Well,
That's a storyline to me.
it is, and yeah, I mean, play better, I guess. At the end of the day,
That's always the right answer, right? Just play
yeah,
better.
play
Now,
better.
in years past, they have not allowed, if you were in the drop zone as a captain, you were safe. Okay?
Oh,
This year, the way Greg Norman has stated this is that the captains are not safe. And he talked about Bubba Watson specifically because Bubba Watson's sitting at 52nd place right now.
yeah.
So he's most likely gone unless he has a good week. Now, you have to basically play into the top 10 in order to get enough points to move yourself
To,
out of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's literally one good week. Uh-oh, I think I lost you. Butsy, I can't hear you. Oh, you're not even talking, are you? Are you talking? Uh-oh. I think Butsy's battery died. All right, while you're getting your audio back set up here, Run PMC says Pat is going to
All
the
right.
Ironheads as
Can
the
you hear me?
co-captain. I can hear you.
All right. Headphones died, so we're doing it. We're doing it through the phone.
Okay. Let's see. I think
So what I was
the
saying was,
echo kicked in, so we're good.
what I was saying is there's some politics involved, right? So if you're homies with the captain and the other guy's not, he could even be positioned higher than you, right? You could get the boot, or he could get the boot and you could stay. Is that true?
That's correct.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know about that. That's, you have some pretty hurt feelings there.
I know. I want some drama, man. I want to be able to like report on this. Wouldn't it be awesome if all of a sudden Matthew Wolf gets dropped by Bubba Watson and all of a sudden he's all butthurt over it because he's like, I was in the open zone. You didn't even make it. And yet you're going to release me.
Right.
And it's like, then he doesn't get picked up by another team. And then all of a sudden it becomes this big drama out there. And it's like, shoot, man, this could be juicy. We get Matthew Wolf to come on the show, start talking some shit about his experience on Live Golf. Like, this could lead to so many things. I think this would be a blast.
You're not lying. You got lifelong friendships in some cases that could be no more. But we're also talking about a shitload of money here. Like, this isn't just friendships. This is like, all right, you're
this
out.
This is livelihoods.
And so's your potential $38 million you would make next year. Have a nice day. And by the way, there's nowhere else for you to play either. So,
yeah, you're banned from everything else. See ya.
It's the only place you can play. You're not going to, all right, I'll just go, Monday qualify and play my events on the PGA. No.
Now, do you actually think anything would happen for anybody in the open zone other than getting traded to another team? Think anybody's going to get released?
Yeah.
You do?
I think there's going to be at least one or two guys that get yeah.
I don't see it. I see this as they have to do this in order to rework their system to get official world golf ranking points at some point. Because they had to do a relegation, they had to do all these different aspects because they have to allow people to play their way into Live Golf and so forth. I think it is more so from a marketing aspect with the open zone than anything because they needed some type of platform to be able to trade players.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but I do think you're going to see one or two. I would prophesize that. And
I would love that. That would be so dramatic.
And maybe a guy gets brought in that you didn't even know was in talks with Live Golf that comes right off the PGA Tour and ends up on a team, and everybody's like, "Holy shit! Like what?" That guy.
Or they grab somebody straight out of college, like John Rahm did with Caleb Surratt.
Yeah, you could do that, and I think that would spice it up more than not doing that. That would be the biggest move they could ever make from
my God, could you imagine if all of a sudden it's like, hey, Ian Poulter, I'm dropping you because Poulter's 46 right now. I'm dropping you and I'm just releasing you. Even though you made it past the drop zone, I'm releasing you and I'm picking up this young kid straight out of college who's a stud and I'm bringing him in on my team. Makes a lot of sense.
That would be more entertaining for the fans too, and
Oh
anybody
God, it would
that's
be.
watching.
Could you imagine our podcast episode after news like that would break?
Oh,
Oh,
oh my God! And the memes, the amount of memes that would get posted, is somebody just looking so sad. Oh my God! Yeah, if Live releases too many, can they actually refill it? So from what I understand, there is a huge backlog of current PGA Tour players that would love the opportunity to this day to be invited to play on the Live Tour.
so I attest to that because I've spoken with guys who on the PGA Tour that are low on the rankings
Yeah,
that would have accepted a live golf offer in a heartbeat.
yeah,
So to me, I think they have plenty of options when it comes to that. I think what's more interesting though than picking up veteran guys off of the PGA Tour that are towards the bottom of the rankings, about to lose their card, or technically just have like conditional status. I think what's more interesting are the college kids.
yeah. Me
Because
too.
these college kids, how much money are you going to give them? Like these, you picked up a Caleb Surratt this year
Hmm.
and gave him a couple $1,000,000 because he doesn't really have any stock yet. You know, it's kind of like the NBA draft.
It's like the draft. It's like baseball. Like you got a new prospect, right? That nobody's really, unless you're following golf rankings and where everybody's at in college. And what do we got here? Poulter's clothing line. Oh, we don't need to talk about that. His logo
His
was
logo was a
Giannis.
penis.
Yeah.
It's a penis.
Told you not to bother me when I'm cleaning my room. Okay, one more time.
Uh, yippee, more pre-senior players equals
Oh, I
bad
don't. It's
product.
not pre-senior players though that we're talking about here. There is definitely young guys that aren't even ranked low on the PGA Tour that would
There's also
absolutely.
some Corn Ferry guys. I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, there's plenty of dudes out there that would take the opportunity.
I think,
Myself,
and
myself
again,
included.
I think that is the more interesting aspect. I think they get away from the names per se. They start bringing in because they've got the big names, right? As far as the captains of the teams.
Maybe they'll pick the winner of the Creator Classic and give him an opportunity. Yeah, maybe that becomes a qualifying event for a spot on Live. Fucking joke. Anyways,
Good old Luke Kwan. They really
okay.
played up during the Creator Classic that he had brain damage from a cart accident. I'm like, I really want them to explain this golf cart accident.
Yeah,
They didn't share the story. They just kept saying that he had brain damage, was in the hospital. That's why he doesn't play professional golf, apparently. I'm just like, what? Like, this. How can you just lead with he was in a golf cart accident?
what did he do? He drive off a mountain?
That's
Like,
what I want to know. Or did he flip a cart and it landed on his head?
I mean, I've done that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
thought I
probably
broke my
operating.
shoulder once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
wrecked John Daly's golf cart right in front of him. I think I told that story before. Anyways,
All right, we got to keep it moving here. I know we're on a tight schedule.
yeah,
Let's go ahead and move on from Live Golf Chicago. But just so that you guys know, Ian Poulterson in 46, Pat Perez in 48th. Those are the guys on the bubble. I forget who's in 47th. I didn't write it down. But the drop zone, you've got Brandon Gray, Scott Vincent, Bubba Watson, and Laurie Cantor that are all in that relegation zone. So watch out for those storylines. I would just love to see the PGA Tour do a better job with the guys who are about to lose their card. And if they're in the fall series, like that could be all of this.
they should be the highlight stories. We should be
Oh
hearing
my
about
gosh,
it every
this
day.
could be the relegation series. I
Yes,
mean, use a different word than relegation, but this could be
right.
that type of setup.
Feast or famine, like whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we need to highlight who those personalities are, so that you create that underdog mentality and people can start getting behind people. You got something to follow. How did he do? I know he was like his career could change forever if he doesn't make it. Like what happened? I don't know. Just there's no hype.
The other one that I don't know, and I don't know if anybody else knows this because I don't know if it's been actually discussed and talked about by Greg Norman or anybody in the executive team over there at Live Golf. But what happens to Anthony Kim? Because he's in the drop zone. So if he ends up in the drop zone, does he have to play his way back, or do they throw him another contract
they're
to
gonna
be
give
an
him another
individual
contract.
player?
He's
Yeah, I
drawn
don't
way
know how
too.
the individual players work.
I would imagine he's drawn way too much love to it, and his plight. I mean, they've blown him up. The amount of interviews that he's done talking about addiction and all that shit, and like
Yeah,
they're not going to let that just fall. They put a lot of work into him,
I
and
completely agree with you.
they're going to give him another year to see if he can get it done.
And I just don't know how that all plays out with it being the drop zone and him being in the drop zone and stating that you have to play your way back in, but then you're going to give another individual player, because they did 2 individual players this year that would play in events. So that's kind of like their sponsors exemption.
Sponsors
So
exemption,
I'm sure
yeah.
that's going to be the same thing moving forward. Let's get into the Swanee style segment, folks. So for the Swanee style segment, this is not actually a segment this week. This is an announcement, okay? You guys are getting taken care of. I went to Swannies and I'm like, hey, listen, our audience is the absolute best. They're absolutely crushing it on our live broadcast. I love everybody that chimes in, even Dr. McCockiner. That guy's great as well. But Trock Golfer, Anti-Live, Run PMC, Dylan Vodry, Cart Barn Guys. I mean, the whole plethora of people that are jumping on, okay? So what we're going to do for everybody, especially that wants to get this Swannies gear, is for a week, and I'm going to explain this further, but for a week, we've got Pull Hook Golf 35, okay? That is your promo code, Pull Hook Golf 35. You're getting 35% off your entire order at Swannies.co. That's bigger than their Labor Day sale, okay? So this is our Pull Hook Golf Swannies Golf audience appreciation. Now, there is a brand new luggage set that I've talked about on this podcast. The luggage set, we are giving away an entire set. That's 2 backpacks. That is the shoe bag. That is the duffel bag. I've been using this nonstop for going on a little weekend trip, doing a member guest, and it's been absolutely awesome. The backpack goes with me to all the ASU football tailgates. So with this giveaway, okay, this is going to be announced next week, so it's going to start tomorrow. Be on the lookout for the Instagram post that I post, because we're obviously going to have the podcast cover for this week, but we're also going to have a Swannies giveaway post. What you're going to have to do, and I don't want to get Butsy in trouble with any of his sponsors, so I'm not going to include you on this, Butsy, for a follow. But guys, you should make sure you're following Butsy, okay? That's first and foremost on Instagram. Make sure to give Butsy a follow, because in order to be eligible for this event, and I thought about it, I was like, I should make them have to follow you as well, but that would mean you'd have to post and whatever. But with that said, follow Pull Hook Golf on Instagram. You also have to be following Swannies Golf on Instagram. You have to like the post, and then you have to tag your typical foursome in the comments, okay? This is not your dream foursome this time. This is your typical foursome that you play golf with on the weekends, your buddies. Entries are unlimited, so tag as many friends as you want, but each tag should be for 4 players, okay? Or each comment should be 4 players in there, or 3 players, obviously, and then yourself. So the drawing will be live on Instagram next week. Okay, so make sure to stay tuned for those details. But once again, in the meantime, go and utilize the promo code PullHookGolf35. That is going to be available exclusively through Pull Hook Golf on Swannies.co. PullHookGolf35 for 35% off. I was so pumped when I'm like, hey, I think we should do this for the audience. And Swannies agreed. They're like, you guys absolutely crush it with sales, so let's go ahead and give these guys what they want.
Cool.
35% off. So that is the Swannies style segment for this week. And without further ado, let's move right into our final segment of the night. Is Bernard Langer illegally anchoring his putter? Let's look at this, okay? Because I've got a example here. Oh. This is the point in question, okay? Now, I'm going to read the rules out to everybody so that you can get a good idea as to what rule might be broken. Because originally, I believe the rule back in like 2017 was that your hand can't be connected to your body as an anchoring point. So that's what a lot of these guys kind of built their entire argument off of.
Thank you.
Now, with that, the anchoring point does not just have to be, according to Rule 10.1b, it's not just your hand. It's also if you anchor like your forearm or wrist to your chest, and then your hand is off and away holding the putter. So, that being said, in 2017, this goes all the way back to then, Brandel Chambly is the one who, along with Troc Golfer here, our audience member, called out Bernard Longer and Scott McCarron, okay? And his tweet, this is verbatim, with regard to the anchoring ban on the PGA Tour champions, it's appalling. I have never seen such gross disregard for the spirit of the game. That was by Brandel Chambly, tweeted that. And then the PGA Tour's PR department came out with a statement from Bernard Longer and Scott McCarron, basically not stating how they weren't anchoring, just stating that they weren't. Okay? So I ask you, Butsy, what is your take on this? I want to start off with you first.
Well, it seems like the rule was developed to extinguish anything that looked like this. Really, they're trying to get rid of that altogether, and to find a little loophole or a way around it, it's just like fluffing up your lie, but then saying, "Oh, I wasn't fluffing it up. I was just putting my 3-wood behind the ball in the rough." You know what I mean? Like, it's uh, it's not something I don't think you can call on them, but they should call it on themselves. Like, it's just ridiculous. That it's gross. It's absolutely cheating. It goes against the rule. You're still doing it. You kind of skirting the edge of it. It's just kind of chintzy to me. It's cheap. Yeah.
I completely agree. Obviously, Bernard Longer has dealt with the yips, okay? And dealt with them really bad. Even with the anchoring and everything, he still struggles. So, like, this is a lifeline for Bernard Longer. That's why he's fighting
Why
it.
he's doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he just, and in his mind, he's probably interpreted the rule differently and doesn't consider his forearm being pressed against his chest as an anchor point, even though it is.
It's desperate for him. I don't think he would be able to putt if he didn't find a way to somehow skirt that rule.
Agreed. Right. And in those articles and so forth, as I did a lot of research around this, I saw that, the USGA has talked with Bernard Longer as well as guys like Scott McCarron numerous times, but there's nothing that they can do about it because it's this gray area. It's kind of like on review on the NFL or MLB. If the ruling on the field was called one way, they can't overturn it because there's not enough video evidence. That's kind of what we're in right now with this. So Troc Golfer says, by holding a forearm against any part of your body to use gripping hand as a stable point around which the other hand may swing the club. And that's essentially what he's doing. He is holding, and you can see it with the clothing. In almost every single image, his hand is off of his body. However, his forearm and wrist are pressing up against his chest so that he can maintain an anchor point in his stroke.
If you want to squash it, put a little camera inside his shirt, and because the shirt does puff out. I can't believe I'm even saying this. It falls away from you when you bend over to putt, right? And that might touch your wrist, and you might be able to get your forearm this close, but not actually touch. But it might touch your shirt, and it might look that way, right? Now, the difference between touching your body or your shirt would be massive in terms of the yips and being like what he's trying to use it for. Yeah. But that's where you run into this gray area. Is there's no way to prove that he's not actually touching his body based on what we see. All you can see is that he's touching his shirt. How far in does it go? Is it actually touching his skin? Like, put a camera in there. Like, prove us wrong.
Anti-Live says, new rule, hands and forearms must touch.
And this goes into another, like a bigger thing, too. I think a putter being completely and radically different in how it's used than the rest of your golf clubs. I'm kind of a traditionalist that way. You
Same.
should have to make a swing with it like you do a wedge or a 7-iron or a driver or anything else. You shouldn't get to the putting aspect of the game and then be able to do this radically biomechanically more efficient thing to get the ball in the hole. It just takes a lot of the skill and timing, and yeah, just the skill out of what you're doing. You're kind of finding a way to kind of cheat, and they're already doing it with golf clubs. Even these zero torque putters that are out now, like this shit's
Oh,
even
don't
questioned.
don't
It's
don't go
questionable. I mean,
there.
everybody is going to be using one at some point or another because the science is there on it. But even that's like really close
Yeah.
to being able to kind of improve over what you're naturally capable of doing.
I so I agree with you on the length of the club should not be like it should not be longer than your driver.
Correct.
So I have a big problem against these long putters. Always have. I've always said a putter should be a certain length and max out at, call it, 38 inches or something like that.
The
Like
belly, make it
have
the
it
belly button, whatever.
yeah. This whole thing where it's gotten out of control, especially on the Champions Tour because of Bernard Longer and his success. Granted, he's had a ton of success with it, right? So I just think that needs to be a complete ban where you can't. And the one issue with the USGA, and I read this from the USGA in regards to this, is that you can't say when it's touching clothing that is anchoring. Okay. So they have to rely on the player to be able to say whether or not they believe that they are anchoring. And it's up for interpretation, right? So that's the hardest part about all of this. But do I think that Bernard Longer is cheating? Do I think that Scott McCarron was cheating? Yes, absolutely. Like there's no doubt about it in my mind that when you see like boob being pushed up and
You're
you've had
touching
the
your skin.
yips,
Yeah.
yeah, you 100% are anchoring that. So there's no doubt. And I asked Bob Estes on X if, and I haven't heard or seen the comment yet back. I wanted to know, like, what do the officials say on the Champions Tour about this?
Or just say, hey, look, long hard. You want to keep doing this, that's fine, but you are now the only guy that has to putt with a shirt off. You got to putt with your shirt off.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't think the Champions Tour gets as much publicity around them as the PGA Tour. That's why Truck Golfer's saying here, Adam Scott has a huge gap of air in between his forearm, and he really does have more of he kind of uses it like a dart thrower, where like the elbow is on line, and that's kind of his rocking back and forth point so that it stays in line with where he's putting. And I agree, like, Lucas Glover doesn't have that either. So I completely agree with both of those statements around Adam Scott, Lucas Glover. It's just that the Champions Tour doesn't get enough. And I guarantee you what ends up happening is they sit there and go, do we really want to make a big issue out of this? And for them, it's kind of like, let's put this underneath the rug or underneath the carpet and just hope it goes away. And it kind of did for a long time. I mean, it's not until Trot has done a phenomenal job of
he has dug this one out of hell.
I mean, he got us talking about it, so good on you,
right.
Trot.
He's right.
He is right.
When we first started working together on here, and he would bring that up, even myself, I was like, I don't know, is it really that big of a deal? Then you kind of look at all the tournaments this dude's won, and like, oh wait, if that's the only way he can putt, it's a huge advantage. And once I don't know, like he's beat a lot of people because of it.
He's got the most wins on the Champions Tour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
it is a big topic that should be discussed. It's just been going on for so long, and Bernard refuses to change it because he's adamant that he is not breaking a rule. Okay, yeah. But once again, you have to understand that he's interpreting the rule in the way that he wants to interpret it. So in his mind, he's made himself believe that he is not breaking a rule. And I believe that. I believe Bernard Longer does not think that he is cheating. Right. So it's not something that he feels that he's doing. I guarantee that. However, I do believe that it is cheating. And I do believe that I mean, you can do the eyeball test on this one, in my opinion, and see that the boob is pushed up and that when, look at the stroke. I guess that's the bigger thing. Look at the stroke. Does this ever move away from the area? Like, is
It
this
doesn't move
moving? It
independently of the
doesn't
body.
move
Yeah.
independently. It stays in place with that. So there's no, that is an anchor. And maybe it's his German that really messes him up. Maybe he reads the English differently.
Maybe you say that your hand like can't cross a 90-degree angle with your elbow, like, maybe something like that. That way there's no confusion, like there's no way around it, right? Like it can't go above where your elbow's at. Maybe it's got to stay, below a 90. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of bullshit to get around it. But yeah, I don't know. We should, I need
This
to
should
say
be the longer rule. I mean, really, like, there should be a rule that gets put into place so that you cannot do it. And I think they are, like, what's funny about this with the 10.1b is that they've actually created a rule about indirect anchoring specifically to target somebody like Bernard Longer and Scott McCarron and so forth, but they do not care. Like, Bernard Longer is still doing it, still absolutely doing it because he knows that this is his lifeline. If he can't do this, he's screwed. He can't make a putt.
and he's good for the Champions Tour, right? Like, he's like the Tiger Woods of the Champions Tour. I mean, a lot of people like him. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. What are we gonna do? I mean, nobody's gonna say it, they're not gonna do anything about it, right?
Well, it's up to us as part of the media to keep that conversation going, to talk about it, and kind of to push it forward. And hopefully, people with even a bigger platform than us pick this up. Maybe like Subpar Golf or somebody along those lines, and they don't take the position. See, the problem is once you get up to a bigger platform size, you're so tied to the PGA Tour, like you're not going to see Colt go and talk poorly about the rules officials for the Champions Tour because he might lose his broadcasting job, right? So those are the politics you have to play when you have a big enough platform that size. So that's why we're kind of the perfect size to be able to talk about this stuff.
Well, and to Kyle's point, he goes, well, he's still controlling the face with his wrist. Well, that wrist for sure. But for the issue that he has, which is the yips, he's deleting half of the problem by taking one arm out of the equation. Like, for his particular disease, for his type of yipping, it lets him get away with that and maximize his chance to make more putts. It's not for everybody. It's not like saying, well, if he's doing it and it worked really well, everybody'd be trying to do it. It's not for everybody, but with somebody with his particular problem, it seems like it's helped him a lot.
Yeah, and here I do want to clarify one thing here because Kyle from Car Barn Guys, he's saying his forearm may be anchored, but the wrist and hand isn't. But that is exactly what Rule 10.1 or 10.1b is. It is an indirect anchor, and that is illegal in the rules of golf. So that's where I think Bernard might not be understanding English when it comes to that. He's just like, doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to read it, and doesn't believe it. And sure enough, Trot Golfer says there's a specific rule about the forearm in 10.1b section 2. And here's the other thing with it. There is an exact example of this in the rules of golf. There is a graphic. I wish I had grabbed the graphic because it shows like the hand being away and like literally how Bernhard Longer holds the putter, and it shows that is banned. So it's like, yeah, you can't do that. And I think somebody has to have the balls to be able to go in there. And I think, isn't Bernhard Longer done though? Or isn't he like his last tournament coming up?
Yeah.
So they're just happy that he's going to go, be gone, and no longer
the headache's over.
The headache is over once he stops. But yeah, he got away with a good one. So it is what it is.
And a lot of money.
It's also a rule that changed, right? So it's not as if it started out like you used to be able to anchor a long putter back in the day.
And why did they change that?
Because it was cheating.
For the right people, it made them better putters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anti-Live says all his wins need an asterisk now. I'm not going to go that far, but I do think that it's not right. Well, he's played in plenty of events. It was legal to the PGA Tour. He would have gotten called out. Yeah, I think if he was playing on the PGA Tour, I think it's a bigger issue. I think guys on the PGA Tour know well enough. Let's not go down that path.
Yeah.
So, Trot Golfer says this is his last call here in Phoenix. You guys going with me? I might. When is it, Trot?
I ain't going out there with you. Fuck no. Gonna go harass the shit out of that guy.
I would go. I've got no issues with standing next to Trot while he's just absolutely screaming at Longer, holding up his T-shirt. November, okay, that could be cool. Listen, I'm trying to get a membership over at Phoenix Country Club, so I don't know if I really should be yelling out things, but I will stand there.
Trot, you know what you need to do is go to like a boat store and buy like a cheap 10-pound anchor with a chain. And like whenever he's like walking up to a green, just like be there dragging that thing, making noise with it. So he looks over, you see what I'm saying? Sees the anchor. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how you had to explain it. That just makes it even better. The last thing here. So my verdict is it's cheating. What's your last verdict?
Yeah. If it's against the rules and it's giving you an edge on the competition, even if other people don't have that edge or don't go down that path, like it's making you better than you should be, and that's cheating.
Boom. There you go, Trot. You've got both of our verdicts around this. Last thing, Putsy, you sent this over to me. Sorry, we're going a little bit long here. The debate.
This is
okay.
Unbelievable. That
So,
people think
folks,
it's anything
you can see half of my face. Let me come over here. Putsy, yeah, here we go. I love this. This is great. I didn't have time to put this into a 16:9 format, so we get to be on each side of this. If you're watching on video, we've got the graphic right in the middle, and then Butsy and I are on each side of it. So got in a debate about this with some friends, they said, on Reddit. Where do you aim for putting if you're told aim 1 cup left? And the graphic shows that there's 3 different things. So one is in the middle of 2 cups over. One is right in the middle of the 2 cups, and the third one is right in the middle of what would be the first cup next to the actual hole. So, Butsy, where do you position, or where do you think when somebody says it's a hole or 1 cup left?
It's 2, and it's not even debatable.
No, that's what so when you sent this over, I'm sitting there going, this is the dumbest thing I've heard in a while.
Like somebody fucking thought that if they drew this up, it's just made up bullshit. Nobody in the world thinks it's anything except 2, but they're going to say that they did just because they saw the graphic to be a dick. Like nobody really believes that.
Well, nobody's going with 1. That doesn't make any sense. That's 2 cups out and in the middle of 2 cups. That would be like 4 balls outside.
You can measure
something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm with you 100%. It's 2. I've always thought it would be a cup, a full cup, and you go on the edge of the cup.
Yeah. Pretty simple, self-explanatory.
There you go. You got our take on a hot Reddit debate.
I got to pee and poop right now.
Right. Yeah, I got to pee. I grabbed my crotch a couple times.
Did you? Couldn't tell in that comfortable Swannies apparel.
Can't tell the Ivy hoodie, baby. I love the yellow. The yellow.
Yeah, it's pea yellow.
That's so sick. Oh, wow. Yeah, I really got to pee. All right, folks. That is where we are going to wrap this one up. So once again, folks, we've gone over quite a bit tonight. I mean, we talked about the fall series and how that should be rebranded because you got new guys that are potentially going to win. You've got veterans that could win as well, so you got to take that into account. Went over the 2024 Procore Championship in Napa, California. That's happening this weekend. We went over Live Golf Chicago and the storylines there around the individual player title race. We've got the top 24 lock zone and the open and drop zones and how that could become controversial in the future. The Swanee Style segment, which we announced a big promo code this week for 35% off using Pullhook Golf 35 at checkout at swannies.co. And the Instagram giveaway for the entire luggage set from Swannies that I am a big fan of. So make sure to follow those instructions and those rules tomorrow. And then we came to a verdict on Bernard Longer illegally anchoring his putter. And then obviously the last little piece that you threw at me before we headed on to this episode, which was around, somebody tells you it's a cup outside, where the hell do you put it? On the edge of the fucking cup. So that is it. Hope you all have a great week. And oh, shoot, there's so many comments that are coming in right now at the final seconds. Real Kim Jong-un.
Too fucking bad. Don't even entertain that guy.
All right, folks, we are heading off. See you, everybody. And until next week.